So maybe not, but it doesn't help, right? And we'll look at that. 15-minute cities and known traveler digital ID. Canada's got it all. Darn. And Poilievre talks immigration, and he's talking strong on immigration here. And we're going to look at some tent city residents in Halifax, 70 plus years old, and they're living in a tent. And I mean, Canada is getting noticed again on the world stage for being an absolute terrible place to be. So here's Pierre Poilievre, and this person says, Concerned Canadian says, this is an immigration policy that I can support. How about you? So again, like, I'm concerned that he's going to continue running the 2030 agenda. And I hope that we don't have to, I hope that there isn't conflict. I really don't want conflict because, I mean, do you know what conflict does to chocolate cereal? So I don't want conflict, but it seems like in order to fix the order of things, we have to say no to the people who are in power, and the people who are in power don't want to hear no. And so when you have a situation where you have to stop these people and they don't want to be stopped, well, you've got a conflict, and I don't like that. So maybe there's a political way out of this, but oh man, like, I just haven't seen any evidence of that. Here's Pierre Poilievre sounding very, very strong on immigration. We'll see. Here we go.
How many permanent residents do you want to see accepted into Canada next year?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that Justin Trudeau has destroyed our immigration system. We had a multi-generational consensus in immigration for literally decades before.
Did you note? Okay, last time he talked about this, he said the Liberals and the Conservatives agreed, and he froze. Like, it was a good, I don't know, 5 seconds, but in that kind of time, sometimes when I'm talking and I'm trying to find a word, there's an acceptable pause amount of time and an unacceptable pause amount of time. And if you start talking right at that unacceptable pause amount of time, then you kind of cover it, and he kind of covered it, right? But he went long enough to notice, okay? And so he's changed the rhetoric around that now. He's got this consensus thing. We all agreed as Liberals and Conservatives, but he doesn't say the Liberals and Conservatives part. He's saying a decades-long consensus has been broken. And so that language matters, because before he was saying, yeah, we all agree. We're the same, right? Now, change. There's a differentiation. There's a difference. Back to this. I just want to point it out because it's important. It's a distinction, and it may seem very small, but it's a big distinction. What did he remove, right? He removed, we worked with them, right? So
consensus
big deal
in immigration for literally decades before Trudeau came along. Immigration was not even a controversial issue prior to Trudeau. We brought in hardworking, law-abiding citizens in numbers that our housing market, our job market, and our healthcare system could absorb. What has since happened? Trudeau and Fraser destroyed the temporary foreign worker program by telling their bureaucrats to overlook fraud, by getting rid of the rule that required that you couldn't bring in temporary foreign workers for low-wage jobs in places where there was over 6% unemployment. In other words, where there were lots of people looking for work. They destroyed the international student program by allowing rampant fraud and abuse and increasing the numbers to levels we could not afford. And they grew the population almost 3 times as fast as the housing stock. That is entirely a decision of Justin Trudeau and the NDP Liberals. When I'm Prime Minister, the temporary foreign worker program will be used exclusively to fill jobs that Canadians cannot or do not fill, like in agriculture sectors, but never to replace Canadians or drive down wages. We will only admit international students to, if they have a way to pay their bills, a house to live in, and a real admission letter to a real educational institution. And population growth will be below the growth in jobs, housing, and healthcare. That is a common sense plan. Now let's bring it home.
There you go. I mean, he's saying it. He's saying all the right things to people who want to hear those kind of things. Justin Trudeau has wrecked things. This is how he wrecked things. This is how we're going to fix it. This is what we're going to do differently, right? And he didn't say we're working with them. So that's an interesting different thing than what he said last time. Strongest language yet I've heard on that from Poilievre. I'm still concerned. I'm still not sold. Here is what's going on in Halifax. Table Stalt says, this is a quote, "I cry every night in bed. I pray to God that I find a home." 77-year-old homeless Canadian resident. The government did this so that Tim Hortons franchise owners could keep their labor costs down. Here's the CBC report.
This is where we're living.
In this tent lives 77-year-old Judy Howe with her 80-year-old partner George, a situation she never imagined to be in. She says they had an apartment in Halifax before the building was sold and to be torn down. After that, they went to Ontario to be with George's dying mother, but they couldn't afford to stay there and chose to return to Halifax.
It's not home. You know, it's not a place you can cook a meal for yourself. You can take a shower. We go up to the Y on Park Street here. I always get lost. Trying to find my way out. And that's where we shower at. And you can go there every day if you want, you know. And thank God they have that service. But it's not where I want to be. I go to bed crying at night. At night I go to bed crying and I pray to God, asking Him to get me out of here. I need to be out of here.
With the couple's deteriorating health, a volunteer street navigator is desperate to get them into affordable housing.
Judy is the age that my mom would be if she was still alive. And it breaks my heart to see that people who have been born and raised in Canada and Nova Scotia are now having to face this. They were offered a pallet in the new seniors pallet village on Atlantic Street, but Judy does not feel safe having to be in her own pallet because they're only singles.
The Minister of Community Services says he is aware of this situation and staff are working on finding options.
So if we want these individuals to be successful, we want them to feel safe and dignified, they need to stay together, and they need a place where they feel comfortable.
Stein says that she has reached out to different organizations to help. So far, she's been unsuccessful in finding accommodations for them. Until then, Judy is concerned about her safety at the encampment and the change in weather.
Yeah. So pallets, she said, they've got a pallet. So we're going to look at the pallets in just a second. I've got some other people reacting to this. End Wokeness, which is an international kind of account, said this is an absolute travesty. Canadian seniors are living in tents while third world illegals get free housing, right? How many people, we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to put up foreigners in hotels in Niagara Falls, and we can't house our seniors? Like, holy smoke, right? Gunther, who's a US mega guy, he says this is what happens when you elect people who truly don't care about you. The people of Canada are being replaced. Yes, like I can't disagree with that assessment. So they talked about pallets. They were offered a pallet. This is what a pallet is. Okay. Table Salt says, whoa, the government of Nova Scotia has built these 70 square foot boxes for people to live in. They call them pallets. And some of them are reserved for Black African Nova Scotians. Oh, what is even happening here? So this is a pallet. So you've got, it looks like a FEMA camp. Somebody else says that. And I can't remember where they said it, but somebody else was looking at a conversation I was having and they said this looks like a FEMA camp. And I can't disagree. So you have a 70 square foot shed that you can live in, I guess, if you want to. So how does this solve the problem? Like maybe it gets people off the street and out of tents and into sheds. But is that really solving the problem? Hey, come on, Canadian seniors. You want to die in a shed? Like, this is not a dignified way to solve this problem, in my opinion, even though I'm sure these people are trying their best, right? Like somebody said, we can make these for what, $40,000? Like when you factor in everybody taking their cut and all that, right? How cheap do you think these actually are? I don't think they're all that cheap, but all of a sudden, you know, a couple $1 million to house how many people in these pallets? Let's see. I don't even know how many there are there. There's 40. There's 40 there. Is that going to clean up one encampment? And like, once you're living there, like say somebody puts on loud music, Or say somebody does something in one pallet that another guy doesn't like. Say one of them goes on fire. Is there fire services on site or around? Or are you just expecting that the fire department's going to do that? Does the fire department have capacity? Do you know how many fires have been happening at encampments because they have like open flames inside their tents and things like that to keep them warm, or heaters inside the tents that light things inside the tent on fire, or the tent itself on fire? And so, man, like there's all sorts of problems. And again, I just don't think that this is the solution. It seems ham-fisted. Ham-fisted is the wrong kind of way to describe it, but it seems like we've got this problem. We can't solve the upstream problem, so we can only solve this downstream problem. And the downstream problem is we don't have enough housing, so how do we get housing built fast? And their solution is this. Why not dormitories? Why not like a big building with lots of rooms? Why not repurpose hospitals? Like there's all sorts of things you could do. But then you've got the added complication of people, like if you repurpose a hospital floor or something like that, right? Now you've got people living in the hospital using the elevator to go up and down for things that aren't medical necessities and things like that, right? So you're going to have problems there. So like, it's not perfect or anything to that effect, but it feels like this is a very, very poor solution when better, more efficient solutions exist. I mean, just the heating alone, like it would cost a lot to heat those things because they're individual. Whereas if you have multiple units together, the exterior units keep the heat in the interior units. It becomes cheaper to heat them all. It's again, it doesn't. Logistically, it seems like the most expensive, stupidest way to solve these problems. Oh yeah, it has to be individual beds. Well, like sometimes people have pets and or significant others that they don't want to leave. Oh, I'm homeless, now I'm single. That's it. Forget it. You can't have relationships anymore. Like, okay, but also again, this whole homeless thing is seemingly set up by bad policies that have resulted in all of these people becoming either unable to afford their houses, or they've been removed from their houses due to policies, rent evictions, whatever it is we're selling because the landlord, being a landlord is a nightmare these days, whatever it is. And then the people can't find a new house. So say they've been renting for, a dozen years at a place that's $900 a month. And now their cheapest rent option is $2,400 a month. Well, like can't afford it. There's just no way. Right. And you may feel bad, but the people who are renting at market value, and the people who are looking are competing with other people who are looking on behalf of refugees. Their job is to get them placed in a home. That's it. And so you're competing with people whose full-time job it is to get an unending stream of people coming in placed in a home. And so can you beat that? Good luck. It's hard. It's not easy at all, right? And Wings Over Scotland, 15-minute cities. FEMA camps, 15-minute cities, kind of all the same, kind of seems the same, right? And Wings Over Scotland goes over how terrible this whole 15-minute cities is. When he says, let's actually take a minute to look into the idea of a 15-minute neighborhood and what it's actually saying. It immediately sounds a lot like the bad old days of the company store to me, a captive market deprived of options. I mean, how do you know what I need, Mr. Town Planner? Is there going to be a shop that sells miniature replica arcade cabinets? That's mostly what I buy now. Weird, but okay. Oh, but you can buy all your weird stuff online. And how's it going to get to me? Oh, that's right, via airplanes and trucks and vans on roads. Nobody's cycling it to me from San Francisco. Actually, San Fran Bloody Cisco, he says. There's a little, about a mile, so like a grocery store, about a mile and a half from me, which I walk to regularly in the spring and the summer. This week I drove there because they occasionally have fantastic French lemonade with no sweeteners in it, and I bought 20 bottles to last me until the next time it's in stock. How's that working in my walking distance neighborhood? I have to schlep there 10 times and buy a couple of bottles a time. I'm not lugging 30 kilograms on the back of a bike, am I? Excuse me. I also drive there if I'm buying 10 kilograms bags of dog food for the foxes and badgers, or to Pets at Home for 15 kilogram tubs of fat balls for the birds, meant to roll those home along the pavement, am I? I get raised eyebrows at my garage every time I get my car MOT'd because it does under 500 miles a year. But last year it was broken down for 3 weeks, and I realized how much stuff I just couldn't do, even in a small and pretty walkable city like Bath. A 15-minute neighborhood is great if all you want to do is get out once a day to buy your artisan quinoa and fresh fair trade organic avocado for dinner and attend your creative yoga meditation workshop. For everyone else, it's a right dick ache. Is there going to be a range of supermarkets in my 15-minute stroll radius, a multiplex cinema, a few restaurants and pubs and takeaways, a sports stadium, a swimming pool, an arts venue? We're going to need to build a lot of these things, aren't we? Actually, it's going to be like the District 12 in Hunger Games, right? That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be a nice place. It's just going to be a place that you could maybe get some food and then barter the leftovers from the society that they've destroyed. I hope I'm wrong. Wings Over Scotland continues. Or are we not meant to have any sort of social lives at all and just sit in our tiny pod homes, ordering stuff online and walking in the freezing rain all winter to the workplaces that are all somehow handily right next door too? What they mean is that everything we have decided you need will be in walking distance. Nothing unapproved, nothing subversive, nothing spontaneous, just opportunities for licensed, monitored consumption. But hey, at least we'll have the noise of all of our heat pumps to listen to as we wait for the extra jumpers we ordered from China to be flown here and try to read improving books via 20-watt light bulbs because our windows are the size of postage stamps to improve energy efficiency. Anyone who plays SimCity for a day knows it's hard to build an ideal town or city, even starting from a blank slate and being able to create entire districts in seconds. You cannot serve everyone's needs within 1,000 yards. It's a lie, and beware people who lie to you. Yeah, it's a lie. And this transitions nicely into the digital ID and digital travel, etc., which they're trying to roll out. And this woman says the government has a $105 million contract with the WEF for a digital identity program. And I've talked about this before, but it bears remembering. So here she says, it's just like 20 seconds. So she reminds us.
Do you owe your conspiracy theory friend an apology? The government has finally admitted that they have a contract with the WEF, $105 million for a digital identity program. Oh, would you take a look at that? Oh, there it is, right there. Okay. Do you?
Right. So, sure. Here's the link to the page, and it's the known traveler digital identity, and you can watch the video if you're interested, but it's exactly what you'd expect. Here, we'll watch the video because it's exactly what you'd expect. Here we go. The boops are crazy fast. This is in regular speed.
With the number of international arrivals expected to grow 50% by 2030, travellers need seamless ways to cross borders that also protect national security while protecting their personal data. The Known Traveller Digital Identity, or KTDI, is a public-private collaboration that enhances security efforts while enabling a connected journey for today's international traveller. The KTDI is the only global travel initiative of its kind. Travellers can share documentation and information from one verified identity, with partners including government authorities, airlines, and hotels. The KTDI allows travellers to play an active role in travel security efforts by sharing their information proactively. Travellers always retain control over what, when, and with whom they share their information. Each data element shared by the traveller is verified, accurate, and consistent every time. This is made possible by the technologies of distributed ledger, cryptography, and biometrics. As more data and information is
Biometrics is just a picture of you and your fingerprint.
Added, travellers build more enriched profiles that build trust with each partner interaction. Let's follow one example of what the journey could look like for future travellers. After travellers download the KTDI app and create their profile, governments provide and authenticate the traveller's identity data based on their passport or government-issued digital ID. Biometrics will link the digital identity with the physical person and their national identity document. When approved, profiles are securely stored and encrypted in individual identity wallets. These contain the original government attestation and additional attestations as proof of the traveller's history of border crossings, plane trips, and hotel check-ins. When a traveller shares required identity information, the attributes they share are checked and validated through encrypted links to their source information. Whether the traveller is booking a flight, boarding a plane, or entering a destination country, the travel provider or government authority can be sure that the information shared is authentic and verified by the issuing organisation.
We have people who are showing up in Ireland who are filming themselves, or somebody else is filming them throwing their identity like away. Like, just go, see you later. So like all of this is just for control. And they're saying, oh, it's going to be so great. Everything you do, from hotels to train trips to plane trips to crossing borders, will be ledgered on this app. A single point of failure for all of that data? Oh my goodness. And like your proactive sharing of the data, so you know where I was and where I'm going to be? No thanks. I don't think so. The government, right? Like, it's a little bit invasive. By a little bit, I mean a whole lot invasive. So how about no, right? Like, I don't think so. But the EU is already trying to move forward with this kind of stuff, as I was reporting. So this kind of stuff is coming. And I think the only way you get away from it is you do not participate in it. You just don't do it. Say, nope, not doing that. Eddie says this is culture and cultural misappropriation, cultural watering down, changing of the culture, replacement. The whole plan is now being seen, but as this guy says, you can't see it unless you connect the dots. So this is a minute 23 talking about how this whole digital identity control plan infrastructure is being set up, and people are now realizing what's going on. And I don't know that he has any solutions, but he's pointing this out. Here we go.
They're in danger from the public everywhere waking up to the plan. So what I'm saying is, look, we're under pressure. We are being attacked internally in Ireland, at senior level in the civil service that are globalists, and throughout the political establishment that are globalists. They are attacking us from within, and they're attacking us from without. And you cannot engage in a fight that you cannot see. And the only way you can see it is by joining the dots. And I know people here have come here because you are already starting to join the dots. What we've got to do is to spread out amongst the population and get them to join the dots. Not by giving them statements like I am doing here, but ask them questions. For example, did you know what was the definition of a pandemic before 2009? Well, what was it? If they can't answer that question, they know nothing about the environment that they're in. The pandemic, the whole definition of the pandemic was taken down. They took away high fatality and morbidity. They redefined what an actual vaccine was in the middle of giving the jabs. You know, they lied about it not going beyond the injection point. That was a lie. They lied about inflation on the central bank side. They knew it was going to create inflation, all of the money printing. It was designed to do so. I mean, it was constant propaganda, misinformation, and then classic gaslighting. They're then saying to all of us, oh, if you disagree with us, well, you're the far right, aren't you?
Sounds just like Canada. Sounds exactly like we're found what's happening in Canada. And so this cultural push of you'll do what we say or you're a far right extremist is a way to control. And that's what they're doing. Speaking of what's going on in Canada, somebody shared this and I thought, wow, Winnipeg, what's up, yo? And Kirk says, how is Canada doing, you ask? This is how Canada's doing. So this is the Nagra Kirtan in Winnipeg. And apparently the Nagra Kirtan is like a parade they do. And Hinduism has a parade. And Hinduism, Bengali saint, I'm going to get the name wrong, propagates ideas of this idea or devotion to a personal god. And Nagar Kirtan is credited with the tradition, with the Vishana tradition, which introduces the custom, the congressional singing of blah, 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 blah. It's like singing and stuff. Like it's just like a regular parade as far as I understand it, as far as Hinduism goes. And the same thing kind of for Sikhism. Like they don't describe anybody running around with swords. I thought maybe they were going to describe like everybody is protecting against like some enemy. And so they've got swords and they're going to run at the enemy. But it's like Nagar Kirtan is in Sikhism is customary in the festival of Vishaki. Traditionally, the procession is led by a saffron-robed Pan pair, who is the five beloved of the Guru, who are followed by the Guru and the holy Sikh scripture, which is placed on a float. Okay, but this is the Winnipeg version, which looks really, really different than what I've just described. Basically, what I've described is like a regular parade where people are celebrating their religion and stuff. This looks different than that to me. So here's what's going on in Winnipeg. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what a Nagar curtain is. Here we go. For anybody who's just listening, the procession starts out with a couple of guys, and like one guy's wearing purple. Is that saffron? I don't know. Isn't saffron like more red? Anyway, it doesn't matter. They're wearing purple, and they're Sikhs. I think they've got turbans and stuff on, right? I don't think Hindus wear that. So I think they're Sikhs, and they've all got swords or axes. This guy's wearing a flak jacket, or like a flak jacket or something like that. And then if you get closer, right, some of them have axes. This guy's got an axe. Look at this guy, right? Boom, axe and a sword. This guy's got a sword. This guy's got two swords, right? And so like sword, like pretty serious swords. Pointy sticks, all sorts of crazy things. So maybe I'm misunderstanding what that is, but that seems like very different than what you would expect to see in Winnipeg, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've been doing that for years. When's the first? What was it? Najar curtain? When was that? When was the first one with that? Do they all have swords, or is that just for this one? It seems really aggressive. It seems like if you were to take some people from Winnipeg in 2001 and show them that and be like, cool, they'd be like, whoa, what happened? That's where I'm at. Here's gov.exe. Let's move on. We've got a grab bag of governance to go over. And he says, watch, mainstream media now says importing millions of people into Canada may not have been a good idea as unemployment rates have surged. We were talking about unemployment, so they're going to talk about unemployment. Here we go.
A growing number of people in this country are unable to find work, with unemployment numbers now reaching levels we've not seen in years. The national unemployment rate was 6.6% in August, up from 6.4% in July. CTV's Adrian Gobriel has more.
The number of people searching for a job in Canada is on the rise.
Please contact this employer.
It's a reality that employment coach Selena Manzano is faced with every day at this publicly funded job center.
It's gone up 100%.
The people coming to see you are getting older as well.
We're getting a lot of clients that are retired. They're 70 years old or plus, and they're looking for part-time because they cannot live off their pension.
The summer job market also presented serious challenges for students, with their unemployment rate rising to the highest level since the summer of 2012.
The bottom line is there's tens and thousands of more people who are looking for work that cannot find it.
Canada added 22,000 jobs in August, though the country's population grew by more than 240,000 in the first quarter of this year.
When you couple that with the explosive population growth that we're dealing with, it just doesn't cut it.
While the average is sitting at 6.6%, the levels of unemployment fluctuates depending on where you live in the country. British Columbia is at 5.8, Alberta 7.7, Saskatchewan 5.4, Manitoba 5.8, Ontario 7.1, Quebec 5.7, with Newfoundland and Labrador leading the Atlantic provinces at 10.4%. When it comes to some of the wages being offered, they're simply too low for far too many newcomers.
Yes, it's the newcomers, poor newcomers. The wages are too low for them. So, that's a problem. Huh. Viva Fry is highlighting this. It's amazing how everyone is talking about alleged Russian-paid right-wing influencers and not actual Chinese spies infiltrating the Democratic Party and the Canadian everything, like the whole government, and how China used a mid-level government aide in New York to influence U.S. politics. That's happening in Canada, and we're ignoring it completely. Absolutely, 100% completely. Bob Mackin is highlighting this. Drew says, accused Chinese Communist Party agent Linda Sun attended a banquet at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Chinese Communist Party rule in China. Crazy that she got away with it for so long. I mean, it wasn't like she was hiding it. And it's funny because Bob says this places her in the same room as the Vancouver and Toronto United Front cadre, and also traveled to Beijing. So there's a whole bunch of people partying together who appear to be have their fingers in the Canadian pie, let's say, as far as politics goes, just like she had her finger in the New York pie. And she was United Front and she was a communist Chinese spy. And so why would the people who traveled to this event from Canada be viewed any different? But they are, it seems like, right? It seems like they are able to be to operate with impunity and really without much, even a second glance. People don't even question it, right? Wild. Table Salt again is highlighting this. There was a terrorist plot hatched in Canada, and it was going to be carried out in Brooklyn in October to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the October 7th attack, which is very gauche, obviously. Like that's not great, but that was the idea. They were trying to stir up those emotions, right? And so Table Salt highlights this. She says, we're going to lose tourist privileges to the United States over this kind of stuff. And I think that that's not wrong. I think that that's probably pretty accurate, but I don't know how the heck they'd close down the Canadian border. Like build the wall? Yowza. Can you imagine like the US building a wall on the northern border? That'd be one heck of a wall. So Pakistani man arrested in Canada for plotting largest attack in the US since 9/11 on Hamas attack anniversary. Not great. Here's a news report on that. And April is sharing this. And she says, on the brink of the September 11th anniversary, a chilling terror plot targeting a Brooklyn Jewish center was foiled. A Pakistani national living in Canada was plotting a mass shooting at a Jewish center on the 1 year anniversary of October 7th. Here's the article. Here's the CBS News report on this.
A national was arrested for planning a terrorist attack on a Jewish center in the city. The Justice Department says the attack was planned for October 7th, the date marking 1 year since Hamas attacked Israel. Lori Bordnero is here now with more on these stunning details. Lori.
And Jessica, according to investigators, the alleged attacker planned to travel from Canada to New York, intending to kill as many Jewish people as possible in the name of ISIS.
Federal investigators say they flagged Mohammed Shahzeb Khan when he began posting on social media last November, alleging he distributed ISIS propaganda videos and pictures like those seen here.
During our investigation, we discovered Khan used encrypted messaging apps in planning a mass shooting attack at a Jewish site in New York City.
According to the complaint, the 20-year-old from Canada unknowingly told undercover officers he was working with U.S. ISIS-based supporters to obtain AR-style rifles. It states he wanted to carry out the attack at Jewish Chabad's in Brooklyn on October 7th, the anniversary of the brutal Hamas attack on Israel, and just days before Yom Kippur, and said New York is perfect to target because of the largest.
So there you go. There's this whole subplot, and Canadians are allowing people in who are planning this and who gain easy access to the United States from Canada by virtue of them being in Canada, right? If they were planning this in Mexico, it would be difficult for them to get to New York, right? So, or more difficult, I guess. Maybe not. Who knows? Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful